One of the things I thought we'd do is I thought we'd actually construct a conspiracy based upon negative evidence, and I thought we would throw out some ideas around. I thought we'd start with the Puget Sound Blood Center.
Oh.
Okay. All right. So the Puget Sound Blood Center. Let's here's some ideas right off the top of my head. Well, first of all, have you noticed that they're always wanting blood? I think that's very unusual and very odd. But okay.
They're always on the verge of running out of.
They're always on the verge of running out. There's no civilian oversight of what they're doing exactly. Let's see, they're closed after hours. You can't get into the building. It's locked up shut. What else? What do we got?
There's a ton of back rooms there. I mean, if I try to go into a back room at the Puget Blood Center, they're trying to stop me. I mean, what are they hiding back there?
And how do you become a phlebotomist? Isn't that is just, I've never heard of that before. You?
Seriously, I mean, who could use this much blood? That's the real question is, as I say, who's here to benefit? Who's the person that needs this much blood on a regular basis?
And where's the blood going?
Yeah.
Answer that one, Puget Sound Blood Center.
And, I mean, are there really that many gunshot victims all the time?
Right.
Somebody is taking this blood.
Right. And all right, here's actually the big one. The big one is that they've never issued a press release of any denials whatsoever that they have vampires working for them. And I think that that's something that the Puget Sound Blood Center needs to address. Otherwise, this is going to be an open-ended issue, and people are asking questions.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, is it so hard to issue a press release about something like that? It doesn't matter that there's no evidence for the existence of vampires. Actually, no, wait. You know people who claim to be vampires, don't you?
Yes, but that's a show for another day.
Yeah, but so clearly there are people who say that they need this sort of blood out there. There's this huge supply of blood. Prove to me right now that it isn't vampires.
Right. I want to know if there are sanguinists working for the Puget Sound Blood Center, and I need to know it now. Otherwise, this show goes on air as is. Oh, actually, it is on air, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, too late. So the next one is the 520 floating bridge. Oh. There's a lot of open questions about the 520 floating bridge, and people demand answers. You'd actually mention a few earlier. What do we have? Well, first of all, there are no pictures underneath the bridge, right? I haven't seen any pictures either released. I haven't seen any architectural diagrams. It's just whatever's underneath the bridge. No one knows what it is.
Anything could be down there.
Right. What else do we have? You're not allowed to swim near it.
What are they trying to hide?
Right. No submersibles can go underneath it, so you can't actually send your own expedition to check out what's underneath. Yeah. I think it's pretty obvious where we're going with this. Is that there's either a flying saucer underneath there, or...
I'm thinking Godzilla in a block of ice.
Okay, I thought Atlantis, but you know what? It could be, there's something underneath there.
There are mermaids.
And they're not telling us what it is. And I want answers, okay? I want a press release from them.
I want access to that Atlantean technology.
Right. I want a press release from them, and this is from Ask an Atheist to the city of Seattle, or whoever's in charge of it. We want to know what's underneath that bridge, okay?
Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a troll.
A troll? An aqua troll?
I never cross a floating bridge without a goat.
Okay. Okay.
It's better safe than sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, let's touch a little bit on cognitive dissonance. And what that is in a nutshell, it's when you attach yourself to an idea or a proposition, and when you hear ideas that are contrary to that idea, your ego kicks in and your defensive mechanisms kick in. Aesop's fables very, very famously discussed about the fox with the grapes, and the fox couldn't reach the grapes. So he felt better when he realized that the grapes are probably going to be sour. They're probably going to be no good anyway. And that was his way of feeling better about the fact that he couldn't get the grapes. And and we do that all the time.
Is that where the term sour grapes comes from?
That is where the term sour grapes comes from. And we do this sort of thing all the time. When approached with ideas or notions that are contrary to our own worldview, or we may actually be wrong about something we held cherished to be correct, we find defensive mechanisms to block it out, and everybody does this, even skeptics. To the best of our ability, we still do it.
And I think that's what the importance of the scientific method is that it recognizes our own personal biases, our own inability, our own confirmation bias, and tries to correct it by bringing other people in there. And that's what the peer review process does: is knowing that human beings are going to make mistakes,
right? And
we're going to have biases, so we have to basically run the gauntlet of a lot of other people checking to make sure you dot your T's and cross your I's.
Yeah. So anyway, as you're watching this show, and if you believe in a conspiracy theory of one form or another, and you find yourself feeling defensive about it, just know that is your own reaction to it. That is your cognitive ability just defending yourself against it. So
it's not an alien implant.
Right. It's not, and there's nothing unusual, at least as far as I know. I mean, I don't know what's going on in that technical booth. There's nothing unusual going on between what we're saying and what's going on
I'm
Scan
thinking
TV.
Casey probably pulled off his Scooby-Doo mask and has revealed like some sort
Casey
of
really be
lizard
trusted?
alien. I don't know. I don't see him right now.
Yeah, very unusual.
He could be doing anything in there right now. He could be dissecting Scott.
He could be switching the cameras from one to another, but there's no way for us to really know.
Yeah.
I mean, there are red lights on these things, but who knows?
I suspect a sinister motive.
Let's move on. So anyway, one of the first conspiracy theories we thought we'd touch on is Barack Hussein Obama. Okay, a lot of conspiracy theories around our president of the United States. The first one, and most famously, is the birther controversy.
Yeah, there are a lot of people in the country that seriously doubt whether the president of the United States was born in the United States and is thus eligible to be president.
Right.
Is this possibly sour grapes?
You know, that's actually a very good throwback. Yes, is this sour grapes? Quite possibly. So there are a lot of theories as to where he comes from. Could it be Kenya? Could it be Indonesia?
I think David Icke actually believes him to be a shape-shifting lizard.
Yes, and you know what? That's actually not a joke.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about David Icke in just a few minutes.
Yeah, conspiracy theories are actually kind of similar to what's known as Poe's Law, which Poe's Law is applied to religious fundamentalism, saying you can't parody it because the genuine article is pretty indistinguishable from this.
It looks like we have Barack Obama's gift certificate.
Yes, it's usable at any mall.
Yes. His birth certificate is up, and basically, here's what happened. In a nutshell, when he first started campaigning for president, there were some who said that he was not actually legitimately born in the U.S. So very early on in his campaign, he puts his birth certificate online. Actually, a very unusual step. I don't know of any presidential candidate who's put his birth certificate up. And
we've never had to before. It's never been an issue.
Yeah, right. This is actually a very new kind of rumor. So he goes to put it up, and there are people who say, "Well, that's not the long form birth certificate. That's not the real deal." Or they'll say, "Well, you know what? At the bottom of that birth certificate, if you can punch it up again, Casey, at the bottom of that birth certificate, it says, any alterations to this birth certificate. Actually, I think I recall. Yeah." Any alterations to this birth certificate make it invalid. And you'll notice the certificate number at the very top is blocked out, and therefore the certificate is invalid.
So if I just took his birth certificate and wrote a smiley face on it, he magically becomes not an American?
The end.
Wow.
End. We can coronate McCain right away. You know.
But then McCain was poured in the Panama Canal Zone.
But that's a conspiracy for another day. Okay. So. Anyway, there's thankfully though, the birther thing has kind of gone by the wayside, but it really gives you a sense as to people will hang on to and to believe something if it goes into their worldview of Obama is not an American citizen. He's illegitimate in some way.
That's what I find. It's not even just the birth certificate. There are also 2 different birth announcements in major Hawaiian newspapers.
Right.
So does this mean that, unless they have a time machine, which makes this conspiracy even more absurd.
Don't put it past people.
That he was chosen to become president in 1961. It's like, yes, somebody in 1961 said, let's take this black child born to a single mom and make them president, because that's something you want to put a lot of money on.
Right.
So let's bribe 2 major newspapers to run this thing. It's like, well, hold on a minute here. Rather than run these birth announcements, these fake ones, and use your power, why not simply just fly his mom to Hawaii so he can be born there?
Right.
And who would choose a baby to be president? Who knows who this baby could have grown up into? You want to put all your money and he grows up into Gary Busey or who's someone else? It's fairly useless.
Well, I think that the thing we're getting at here is that so often with these conspiracy theories is that they follow what we call as the family circus style of terrorism or conspiracy, and that is instead of a direct straight line. For example, like the 9/11 planes flying into the jets flying into the World Trade Center. Instead of that, why don't we plant bombs and fake it? Why don't we just fake that? And it just I know about that. So why don't we just fake it? And so that's one of the things you'll see is that instead of Barack Obama just being born in the U.S., that why don't we just have him born someplace else and we'll fake everything else with the idea of making him president? It makes no sense.
And if you're going to have a Manchurian candidate, wouldn't it be easier to not have this huge weak point, this huge Achilles heel, that you get him in office and he has this one thing that if they expose it, your whole plan, everything you've done for decades, all the money you've spent on this, just goes down the tubes.
Right.
And seriously, why pick a baby at that point in the first place anyways? It's like, oh, now comes the easy part. Now all the pieces in place. Now he just has to win the electoral college.
Yes. And who would put their money on Barack Hussein Obama as a child?
Yeah, he was
John Patrick Rogers. That's that's where I'd put my money. Anything like that.
I'd put my money on somebody who is in some sort of like political dynasty of some kind, like a Bush or a Kennedy.
Yeah.
Someone who it makes complete sense that they would be raised from birth with the idea that they're going to go into public office someday.
Right. So for the most part, like we mentioned earlier, the birther thing has ebbed. It's actually, most people who are considered to be birthers are out of the mainstream, and thankfully it's gone by the wayside. In fact, we have an ad that was ran by John McCain recently that paints his opponent as a birther, and hopefully we can put that up, play that clip.